The story of the Chinese Jinn and the pretty little girl. This tale has been adapted from the famous Arabic book titled Bahjat al-Asrar, written by Abdul Razak. Before I tell you the story, can you please subscribe to our channel so you can get all future videos in time. Once a man named Abdullah appeared before Sheikh Abdul Qadir Jilani, Ghost the Great. He was in tears as he spoke to Ghost the Great, and thus he spoke. I had a daughter whose name was Fatima. Fatima was 16 years of age and was a most beautiful girl. Last night she vanished suddenly from the roof of my house. High and low have I wandered in her search, but nowhere is she to be found. I seek your help, my greatest ghost. Do not turn me away empty-handed, Ghost the Great. On hearing Abdullah's sad story, Ghost the Great was much affected and decided to help the man in trouble. He entered into profound meditation, and after he had recovered from the stance, he spoke to the man in trouble, and thus he spoke. Tonight you must go to the jungle of Kirk and there sit upon the ground after drawing a circle round yourself. You must also continue to repeat God's name and let fear of God possess your heart. In the dead of the night, a caravan of Jinn will pass by you. Know that they have horrid aspects, but do not be terrified. Continue to repeat God's name and let fear of God possess your heart. Once King Djinn himself arrives and seeks to converse with you, you may tell him, I have sent you forth. Recount to him then the story of your misfortune, and he will help you. Abdullah made for the jungle of Kirk hastily, and once he had reached the middle of it, he sat upon the ground after drawing a circle around himself. He then started to repeat God's name and let fear of God possess his heart. In the dead of the night, the caravan of Jinn passed by him. They had horrid aspects, but Abdullah was not terrified. He continued to repeat God's name and let fear of God possess his heart. At last, King Djinn himself came to him and sought to converse with him. He was on horseback and accompanied by many fellows. He spoke to Abdullah, and thus he spoke. What has chanced upon thee to cast thee from thy abode and into this wilderness? So great must be thy misery as to make thee undertake this travail. Abdullah replied that he had been sent forth by Ghost the Great. He then recounted to him the story of his misfortune. On hearing the name of Ghost the Great, King Djinn quickly alighted from his horse and, visibly concerned, turned to his fellows. He spoke to his fellows, and thus he spoke. Come hither to me, all. Take an oath and swear by the name of Ghost the Great. Tell me, who hath stolen this man's daughter? Go seek him out. Whoever be that hath thus wrought this deviltry upon this disciple of Ghost the Great, we will make an example of him. We will let loose the justice of our land upon him, and the sentence shall even fall upon his life. The perpetrator was a Chinese Jinn who was soon captured and brought before King Djinn. King Djinn was wroth and spoke in fury, and thus he spoke. Darest thou cause mischief to a disciple of Ghost the Great? Why, tell me, why hast thou wrought this sinful act? Now thou shalt answer this heinous crime even with thy life. The Chinese Jinn started to shake with fear. His knees knocked as he stood, and it seemed as if he had great difficulty standing. He spoke to King Djinn, and thus he spoke. I flew over her house while she was playing upon the roof. I fell in love with her. The Chinese Jinn was beheaded on the order of King Djinn for the crime, and Fatima was returned to Abdullah. King Djinn then spoke to Abdullah, and thus he spoke. Ghost the Great is not thy master alone. He is indeed mine master as well. The bounties of his greatness are not limited to humankind. Even for us, Muhayyuddin remaineth a source of enrichment and succor.